and the chair will now recognize the gentlewoman from Oregon, Ms. Bonamici.
Thank you to the chairs and ranking members, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. I came to this hearing from a hearing in the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. I know that the climate crisis is one of the greatest existential threats of our time, and I'm extremely concerned by this administration's attempts to disregard congressional intent when spending or delaying the spending of appropriated dollars on clean energy research, development, and demonstration, which are all part of going to be part of the solution to addressing this crisis. And in fact, the department doesn't have a great record. In 2017, the GAO found that the department had violated the Impoundment Control Act regarding the distribution of ARPA-E funds. So, Mr. Simmons, are you aware that Secretary Perry testified before this committee in June of 2019?
I would imagine that I knew that at the time, but I have no recollection of that specific hearing.
Well, are you aware that during that hearing, then Secretary Perry committed to distributing the department's appropriated funds for fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020 in accordance with congressional intent?
I know that Secretary Perry has always been very clear about distributing funds consistent with congressional intent.
Thank you. And has the department distributed appropriated funds for fiscal year 2019 in accordance with congressional intent?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you know?
Well, as in my office, which I can't really speak to other offices because I don't know all the situations, we have worked very hard to comply with congressional intent.
We appreciate that, certainly. According to testimony from one of our witnesses from the Natural Resources Defense Council on our second panel today, which I hope you'll be able to listen to if you haven't already reviewed the testimony, the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy entered fiscal year 2020 with $820 million of unobligated funds from previous years. So that's equivalent to nearly 1/3 of the office's annual budget. Do you agree with that figure? Is that correct?
It's close. It's 35% of our budget.
Okay, but about $820 million of unobligated funds.
Yes, 835.
In your testimony, you're quick to point to examples of EERE issuing large FOAs totaling millions of dollars, and you suggest you will release the remainder of your fiscal year 2020 FOAs in the coming months. How can this committee be certain that the department is deliberately allocating these dollars consistent with congressional intent and scientific integrity principles rather than with the president's goals as outlined in his budget request?
To that, I think is just to say, look at our track record in terms of unobligated funding. Our track record, for coming into FY 2020 is consistent with the previous administration's unobligated funding going into FY 2016 and FY 2017. In terms of the funding opportunity announcements themselves, those topics are very much aligned. When the program directors come and brief me on upcoming FOAs, one of the things that is discussed every single time about every single topic is what is the congressional language around this topic? Why are we doing this topic? I take very seriously that direction from Congress and want to make sure that we are allocating funding and our funding opportunity announcements are consistent with that direction from Congress.
Well, I appreciate the response, but it seems inconsistent with having $820 million of unobligated funds that could be used for research and development that we so desperately need.
From a FOA is released, it takes about 9 months till we have the first award of that funding opportunity announcement. That means that when we get to later in the fiscal year, we're going to have some carryover. We're going to have some carryover money into the next fiscal year, just because it takes a while to go through that process, to have for applications to come back, to have the merit reviews, and then to go through the award process. Because even after we have selected the winners, it then takes time to negotiate the actual award.
No,
Unfortunately, that is longer than I would wish, but it does take 9 to 12 months frequently.
And I do want to just, as I yield back, express my concern about the situation where the Department of Energy withdrew and then reissued with regard to the advanced solar energy technologies. And I know there's some documentation that's likely to be included in the record in this. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Well, I'd like to